Alright, so today you're going to talk about multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. Alright, I'm going to walk through some things with you, give you some practice to do on your own, and show you how we're going to multiply some mixed numbers here. Alright, so if you remember, you do not have to write this down, but the things to remember. Number one is that you do not need a common denominator. You multiply straight across. And you want to reduce early when possible. And those are the three things we talked about yesterday, so you don't need to write it down again. But just to refresh your memory on what we did yesterday. So today, let's start with 1/6 times 5/8. So what that turns into is 1 times 5 over 6 times 8. 1 and 5 are both prime, so I cannot reduce anything early, so it turns into 5/48. Alright, well, what about 1/9 times 18/24? Well, that turns into 1 times 18 over 9 times 24. And we don't want to do 9 times 24. All right? If we can reduce early, we want to. So what we do with that is we know that 9 and 18 both divide by the same number. And that's how you reduce. So you divide by 9, so that turns into 2. And 9 divided by 9 is 1. So now we have 1 times 2 over 1 times 24. Well, I could go from there, but I also noticed that 2 and 24 are both reduced by 2. So this would be a 1, and this would be a 12. And that turns into 1 over 12. Okay. Remember, the rule with reducing is that you have to reduce a number on top and a number on the bottom by dividing it by the same number. So they have to have a factor in common. All right. Well, what about if we start increasing our numerators and we do 2/5 times 6/7? Well, I get 2 times 6 over 5 times 7. You cannot, and I did that on purpose, I want to see if you want to reduce, but you cannot reduce early because they're both, the only numbers you can reduce would be 2 and 6 if they were flip-flopped. But 2 and 6 are both numerators, so you cannot reduce it, so you get 12/35. Okay, 3/10 times 2/6. Well, I know that that's 3 times 2, 10 times 6. Well, I know that 3 and 6 both reduce by 3, so that turns into 1, that turns into 2. Oh, 2 and 2 both reduce to 1 and 1, so that gets 1, turns into 1 over 10. Alright, so those are some refreshers on some stuff we did yesterday. You should have 4 problems there that we just did together that I wanted you to do with me. Now, I want you to do these couple on your own, pause the video, and check from there. Three sevenths times 12/18, and 4/5 times 10/21. Okay, so try those on your own. Pause the video, try them. Alright, so check what you have with what I have, so I turn that into 3 times 12 over 7 times 18. I know 7 is prime, so nothing's going to reduce it unless there's a multiple of 7 in there. But I see that 3 reduces here to 1, because I reduced 3 divided by 3, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Well, then I notice that 12 and 6 can both be reduced by 2. So then 6 and 9. And then I noticed that they lastly can reduce by 3, and I could have noticed that they both go by 6. Didn't do that right away. But 2 and 3. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 7 times 3 is 21. So I get 2 21sts. Now, could you have reduced that differently? As long as you end up at the same answer and are reducing, that's up to you how you go about it. 4 times 10 over 5 times 21. Well, we know that I see a 5 and a 10. Reduce the 5 and the 10, not the 4 and the 10, because 5 and the 10 are on one on top, one on bottom. So 10's in my numerator. I reduce that by dividing 5. Turns into 2. 5's in my denominator. So I reduce that by 5. Turns into 1. So then I get 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 21 is 21. Both have 21 in the denominator. Didn't even mean it. Alright, so now we're going to talk about mixed numbers here, because I think we have the process of multiplying fractions down. But if I said you have 2.5 times 3 1/3. Now the common error people would make is saying, oh, 2 times 3 is 6. 1/2 times 1/3 is 1/6, and I get 6 1/6. That's not accurate. Alright? When you're multiplying mixed numbers, you have to convert to improper fractions, then multiply. Oh, I forgot. Change to. So when you're multiplying mixed numbers, you change to improper fractions, then multiply. So we're going to keep that idea in mind. So how do we find an improper fraction with this mixed number? Well, 2.5 is 2 times 2 plus 1, which is 5 halves. 3 1/3 is 3 times 3 plus 1, turns into 10 thirds. So now 2 1/3, or 2.5 times 3 1/3 really turns into 5 over 2 times 10 over 3. So now I want to turn that into 5 times 10 over 2 times 3, and I just want to reduce whatever's easiest, and that's 10 and 2 by 2, so 5 and 1. So then I get 5 times 5 is 25, 1 times 3 is 3. Then I got to convert it back to simplest terms. How many 3's are in 25? 8. How many are left over? 1. So 8 1/3 is the correct answer to 2.5 times 2 1/3. So it's not 6 1/6. Alright, I'll do one more with you, and then I'll give you a few to work on your own. So here, let's go with 1 6/8 plus 2 2/7. So 1 6/8 plus 2 2/7. Well, I find my mixed number by multiplying my denominator by my whole number, and I get 8 plus 6 is 14 eighths, plus 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16 sevenths. Oop, and that's not plus, sorry. Should be multiply. So then that turns into 14 times 16 over 8 times 7. And I see a lot of things that we can reduce here. So 16 and 8 reduced by 8, so that's a 2 and that's a 1. And 14 and 7 reduced by 7, so that's a 2 and that's a 1. So I get 2 times 2 is 4 over 1. Is 4 over 1 turns into 4. Wow. I didn't even do that on purpose, but look at how nice that turned out for us. Alright. Then, let's do one more since that one turned out to be so That was pretty easy for us. So let's do 3 2/5 times 4 1/2. Okay? So that turns into 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17/5, times 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9 over 2. Well, here's the bad news. 17 times 9 over 5 times 2 does not reduce early. So I have to go over here and find out what 17 times 9 is. 7 times 9 is 63. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 6 is 15. So I get 153 over 10. Good news is that I can figure out how many 10s go into 153 really easily. That's 15 with 3 left over, so 15 3/10. I'm going to give you 2 to work on your own. Eight 1/3 times 1 4/5, and 9 1. I don't want 9 2/3 times 5. Whoops. Sorry, I didn't want that to be 9 2/3. I want that to be 9 2. 9 2/7 times 5 4/9. All right, go ahead. Good luck.